Everybody, and welcome to the Meta Cafe. Grab your cup of coffee, tea, water, whatever your pleasure, and sit back and enjoy some daily astrology, human design, and oracle energy report. I'm coming to you this morning from Samish Island, Washington, where I thought it was supposed to be a nice day today, but maybe it's just cloudy for now. I'm looking forward to the sunshine. We need it so badly. I'm tired of taking my vitamin D. I really want the natural vitamin D right now. So this morning, what's going on out there? Well, we have some really good energies today. Remember, earlier in the week, we looked at what might be considered a difficult week. And this week, being difficult, we look forward to that time, that moment when we have an awesome day ahead. And today might just be that day, although there's a couple little quinky dinks, but nothing that's terrible or something that we have to be really worried about. So let's just dig in here today. Actually, if you were in the East Coast or here on the West Coast, we have just moved into the moon in Virgo. And that means we are done with the void of course moon, and we can proceed with action and do our day like we would normally do, and have our meetings and our conversations, etc. Because now the moon is in Virgo, moving out of Leo at 10:31 East Coast time this morning, 7:31 my time. Wow, so that was about 30 some minutes ago. Woohoo! So the moon in Virgo, what about her? Well, the moon in Virgo teaches us a lot about discernment, being discerning, and the difference perhaps between discerning and gullible, or discerning and nitpicky, right? Virgo has those perfectionistic tendencies. And if we can use that tendency to be perfectionistic in a way that supports us and not just keeps making us redo things over and over again, perfecting as opposed to just perfecting, then we are using discernment, and we find ourselves being way more successful in getting the things done that we want done. This will be a great day to go with the natural order of things. Virgo is an earth sign. She's very much engaged in earthliness. And that earthliness might mean our paying attention to the earth herself, to the plants, the trees, the animals, the waters, the plants, etc., that we all have around us. Maybe take some time today to feed your plants, repot your plants, go hug a tree. I do that. I don't know if you guys ever do this, but when I find a tree that I just am so connected with, I go and I actually hug it. That would be a great day. A great way to honor the planet is by taking care of her creatures and her plants and so forth. This is a great time to listen to your body's wisdom. Our body houses a great deal of wisdom. And there are many times when we are ignoring that wisdom in favor of many other things that take us or pull us out of the rhythm and the natural things going on within our bodies. You know, your body is very much like a barometer. We can even muscle test with our bodies. If you know what muscle testing is, or if you don't know what muscle testing is, it is a way, I think it's called kinesiology, where you can test for yourself whether a direction is the right way to go, whether a person is right for you, whether a supplement that you might be considering taking is right for you, whether it's sort of like, having ready access to your intuition that bypasses the mind. Good morning, Roseanne. I was beginning to wonder if I was talking to a void because there's nobody out there. I couldn't see anybody. So I just had to keep talking and, assume somebody was listening to me. I do see Roseanne out there, and Susie Cross, I see you out there. I haven't heard a comment from you, but thank you all for listening. And we're talking about the moon today having moved out of Leo and into Virgo. And what that might mean for us in terms of the day. And so we've been talking about discernment versus being gullible or being uber nitpicky. one of the funny things that I often think, good morning, Susie, I think about when I think about Virgo energy, some of you might be too young to remember this, but when I was a kid, there was a show on called The Odd Couple. And it was these two men. Tony Randall was one of them and Jack Klugman the other one. And Jack Klugman's character is the slovenly, messy man, and Tony Randall is the nitpicky, fastidious neatnik. And it reminded me, as I started really understanding astrology, about Virgo, because Virgo has that kind of continuum where at one end we have the slovenly, everything's out of order, disorderly, and then the other side is the nitpicky, fastidious one. So let's come to the middle and be discerning about what's in our environment, about what we connect to with other people's energies, how we honor the earth, and how we listen to our bodies. So when I started seeing people come in, that's what I was talking about. I was talking about the fact that our bodies act as an indicator of truth for us. Most of us have learned or have been conditioned to ignore the body and go with the mind. So what we think is what we identify with readily. Human design teaches us that as well. And yet it is our body that really houses the most wisdom for us. And I've seen many people very accurately muscle test either through doing I cannot do this one, but somehow, you're asking a question of your body. And if you can break through, the answer is no. And if it holds tight, the answer is yes. But I prefer to stand up and just loosely put my arms at my side, ask a question, and find whether my body is going to sway forward or backward or side to side. You calibrate it first, right? You say to yourself, show me yes, and your body can move in whatever direction is yes. And then you say the same thing for no. And using your body like this can really get you to some truths when you are confused. And we get confused, quite frankly, when we get in our heads, right? And our head it's like the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other. And so you're hearing one thing, and then the other side comes in and says, yeah, but what about this? And the other side says, no, that's not right. What about this? So we can have that dialogue going on in our heads, but our body short circuits that and takes us directly to truth. I knew people that go into the grocery store or into a supplement store, and they'll hold that bottle of something in their hand or that food in their hand, and they will ask their body, is this something that is in support of you? And they get their answer through their body. So it's very powerful. And Virgo energy takes us there. Moon in Virgo today and tomorrow really allows us that time to get into connection with our body or with the natural order of things. Good morning, Lori. It's good to have you with us this morning too. And let's see who checked in after that. We have Natasha out there. She says, loving you, trust you are being heard. Thank you, Natasha, because like I said, for a minute, I thought I was talking to nobody. It showed me there was nobody out there. But that's okay, because I know it records. And if you can't, get in right away, or if your day starts off and you can't get to the morning video, you can see it later on in the day. So what else is up today? Well, I hope you all were able to tap into Angel Heart Radio last night and listen to the radio show that Annette McCoy and I did on the planet Chiron, or the planetoid as it's being referred to in astrology circles. And it was a great conversation, albeit one-sided. I thought I was going to be flooded with people who wanted readings to know what was their Chiron or where was Chiron in their charts, but nobody called in. And I'm assuming that must be because everybody was so into the information that they didn't have time to call. Either that or they just were afraid to find out, right? So today I wanted to point something out to everybody. And all of you out there, that I have a little bit different view on astrology, although I'm sure there are other astrologers out there that hold my same view. By the way, good morning, Cheryl. It was good to see you out there. I often look at what is happening in the stars that precedes a major change in sign for another planet, particularly the outer planets, because they kind of signal to us a change in the dynamic through the course of human consciousness, or the collective, if you will. And so right now, I'm looking at the fact that April 22nd, which is less than a month away, is the day where Chiron moves out of Pisces, finally leaving us alone who have had Pisces in, or have their Chiron in Pisces, and moving on into Aries, to dog those of you who have a Chiron in Aries. But I think because what we're seeing right now is a load of planets, a stellium, if you will, of planets in Aries, that it's like a farmer that comes in and tills up the ground right before you plant the seeds. And I often look at these planets that are passing through the sign before a major movement into that sign as exactly that, the hoe, or the I don't even know what you call that thing, the plow that would dig up the ground and bring, allow things, air to come up to the surface from under the soil, nutrients that have been buried deep in the soil to come up to the surface. And right now we have that happening. We have the Sun, Mercury, Eris, Venus, and Uranus all in Aries, and they're digging up that ground for the eventual move this time of Chiron into Aries next month. And good morning, Suzanne. Good to see you out there this morning. And so I want everybody to be very cognizant right now, be very aware of what is going on for you personally, what is going on for you in relationship, because as we talked about yesterday, relationships are really good mirrors for us about what's going on with me. So looking at all of that right now, because when Chiron moves into Aries, you're in a better shape to be able to understand where the wound is coming from, right? Because the ground has been torn up, right? If let's say you have Chiron in your first house, and actually Annette, yesterday, we discovered she does have Chiron in her first house. And the first house is the house of I am, right? It's the I am house. And it's the I put myself out into the world. I am very much learning about who I am. I'm learning about love, self-love, self-sufficiency, independence, etc. So if you have a lot of these planets right now moving through Aries in your first house, it may be exposing all kinds of places in your life right now where you haven't claimed your good, where you have only marginally accepted yourself, where you are only marginally thinking about love and how that relates to you, as opposed to how that relates to your family or your spouse or girlfriend, boyfriend kind of thing. So right now, looking at all the cues that are up and are looking, are moving in your life is going to be so helpful, right? Because this flurry of Aries energy calls our attention to the direction where new beginnings are for us, where we have to become more self-sufficient, and where we must embark upon our own individual quest for independence in expressing our I am. When Chiron moves in here, it is going to go back over that territory, albeit slowly, right? It takes about 6.5 to 7 years for Chiron to move completely through the sign. And so this isn't something that, in one day is going to crystallize for you. But it's helpful now to think about what is popping up in your field so that when Chiron begins to come through it, you are readily able and willing to do the work to heal the wound that pops up for you. Now, that wound pops up for you, whether you have Aries and Chiron and Aries by birth, or whether it's just transiting through Aries in your chart. Every one of you has Aries in your chart somewhere, right? Somewhere. For me, it happens to be on my 10th house. My midheaven is at 14 Aries. So this isn't going to hit me right away, but certainly at the beginning, as it's moving through the last degrees of my 9th house, I will be having to look at how do I change my perspective, right? How have I narrowed myself too much? Where have I been too wide? How do I get everything to be just right for me, right? Not for all the other astrologers or human design people out there, but just for me. And then when it transits over that midheaven, it gets squarely into my 10th house. And then I will be dealing with the energy of my career and my authority and my authenticity, etc. So even though I do not have Chiron in Aries, those are the things I already feel it coming on, right? Because those number of planets that are in Aries right now are bringing it up for me. Thus the reason I just underwent a website update, why I'm changing my branding, and why some of the things that are coming up for me are coming up. It makes perfect sense because Chiron is coming through in the next 6 years and is going to be pointing out to me the places where I thought I've been healed, but there was still more work to be done. Now, I find this not to be something to fear, right? I really feel like this is something we want to embrace, right? We want to bring it in, because if we fear it and we want to push it away, what we resist persists. And we don't want that. We really don't want that. So I wanted to give you the dates here. So Chiron actually moves into Aries on April 22nd, and it will only move 2 degrees between that date and September 29th, where it will go into, where it will retrograde backwards into Pisces again. So those of us with Chiron and Pisces, we're not quite done. There is another little piece to this coming up in late September through February of 2019, when Chiron again moves back into Aries. And that's the nature of these outer planets, right? Chiron, if you want to visualize it, sits between Saturn and Uranus. So it's pretty far out there. And Barbara Hand Clow once wrote a book called Chiron, The Rainbow Bridge Between the Outer Planets, or something like that. Because what she was saying is that it is the bridge between Saturn, which represents the transpersonal or the social aspects of humanity, and bridges over to the outer planets, which represent the collective, the bigger evolution that's occurring on the planet. So wherever that is, in your charts, we're in that push to bridge those things that Saturn and Jupiter have been bringing to us, and what those outer planets are doing for all of humanity. Those people born from April 4th, 1968 to October 11th of 1968 have Chiron in Aries. Then it retrograded backwards and then came forward again. And the people born from February 8th of 1969 to May 22nd of 1976 also have Chiron in Aries. And then it retrograded once more, which, every planet does it, from October 19th of 1976 to May 28th of 1977. If you were born in that time period, you also have Chiron in Aries. And anybody born after May 28th, 1977, you are in a different sign. So what this tells me is everybody between, 1968 and 1977, you're coming up to, within the next 6 or 7 years, your 50th birthdays. Or Chiron really affects those, really kind of is most intense for us right around our 50th birthday. But as I've seen with several people, it can start at age 47, 48, and go on until, 50 to 52. So it has a span of time in which it's really working through the healing process of what your natal wound is. So and I'm going to refer you to the radio show. I'll post that link again today to hear the details. But, the Cliff Notes version of what Chiron and Aries is really working on is the I am wound that may be so deeply buried within these people that or the cause of that, meaning the right to exist, might be buried so deeply within them that it colors everything that's going on in their life, but doesn't necessarily come to the conscious point. So all their lives, they may be having trouble with self-assertion. There may be problems with taking the initiative, that it's fraught with peril or fear, right? That do I have the right to do this? Sometimes there's this feeling for the Chiron and Aries that they're only existing as a reflection of someone else in their lives. So they will be in positions of championing other people's causes or doing things for other people instead of doing things for themselves. if you have Chiron and Aries, you are meant to be learning about how to stand on your own 2 feet and promote yourself and claim your I am. So in this case, you have no will of your own, so you have to learn how to enact your own will. Sometimes there's this false bravado that's covering the pain of their self-doubt and their fear. And then that enacts repeating patterns of self-destructive behavior. Sometimes they're jumping into and out of things so that they don't have to feel the emotional upheaval, that because underneath it is a fear that they don't deserve that. They don't deserve to have what they want. So they'll leave it so that they don't have to fear that it's never going to happen for them. They will be disillusioned because nothing is going to happen. Sometimes there's that, I called it militant self-sufficiency. I see this in my daughter sometimes. She has an Aries rising sign. And if you're listening, Jennifer, I love you anyway. But this self-sufficiency that is so difficult for them to reach out and get help, right? I've got to do this by myself. This is my responsibility. And yes, while we agree that you're ultimately responsible, no man is an island. No woman is an island. That means we can reach out for help when we need it. And there's also sometimes in this Chiron and Aries, a secret death wish. So you find all kinds of death-defying behaviors or risky behaviors born out of a restlessness, but also taken out of the regular life. They might do things like, the Evel Knievel's jumping over the Snake River Canyon, or, bungee jumping, or doing things that they know are dangerous, but it helps them to feel alive. So, and a lot of times for Chiron and Aries, this wound begins in childhood. And even other lifetimes, perhaps, because that's kind of the nature of all of these planets. Things from past lifetimes also come into this lifetime. But their expressions of passion or will are crushed in childhood by what could be a well-meaning parent, but maybe a parent who's got an idea that children should be seen and not heard, or repressive childhood rearing behaviors, like trying to keep kids on a specific schedule when it's out of sync with that child's natural rhythms, is trying to get them to potty train on your timeline and not that kid's timeline, keeping them, bedtimes in a stringent manner, all kinds of things where, the parent rightfully and hopefully from a good position is trying to keep the child in a routine. But that is interpreted by the Chiron in Aries child as a dampening down of their spirit or of their desires, right? So they feel already from childhood that they are not able to get their desires fulfilled. So it becomes a paralysis point. In human design, we talk about paralysis points on the spleen, the fear gates that cause us to stop and not be able to move forward. If you a Chiron and Aries child may grow up in a hostile or aggressive household that causes them to be very timid or shy, or feel like they don't have self-worth, or that they don't have personal rights. And that can be taken out into the world then as bullying energy, right? If you're squashed at home, but you really have this Aries energy that needs to be expressed, then you take that into the outer world and you become the bully and do to others what's been happening to you at home. And we don't want that either, right? So even having compassion then for some of the bullies that we see in the outer world, because we might be able to interpret that Aries was somewhat stifled in their lives somewhere. And then, of course, lastly, this list is much longer, but there's the whole independence versus dependence coming up here, and feelings of not being able to get done what you want done in your life, feeling like every time I take what's that saying? 2 steps forward and it's 1 step back, and feeling like that is something that is, holding you back, without realizing that 2 steps forward and 1 step back is still 1 step forward. So that can lead to a lot of other problems in the life. So, that's just like a thin example here of some of the wounds carried by Chiron and Aries. And those are the kinds of things that people are going to be challenged with over the next 6.5 to 7 years. And if you have Chiron and Aries, it's kind of going to be a focal point, right? Because you're coming up to your 50th birthdays. And I don't care, you might be only 45 right now. That I'm not, trying to race your age ahead, but it's going to happen right here in the next 6 to 7 years. And so you'll want to be aware of that, right? Start working with this energy consciously now. And those of you who do not have Chiron and Aries still have Chiron transiting Aries, and these same themes may be in your face that you have to work through. And especially if you have planets already in Aries, or a angle, we call that, like my midheaven is in Aries. There's the ascendant, the IC, the descendant, and the midheaven. Those are called angles in astrology, and they're very sensitive points. And if an Aries happens to be an angle in the natural zodiac, so it's very powerful. It's a gateway. So what is the gateway to? Well, let's see how this plays out in our lives. But I want everybody to understand this isn't about punishing you. This is about you strengthening yourself. This is about you healing that wound and at least being able to live with that, to see it for what it is and what it's teaching you, and to not resist it, because resistance is futile in this case, right? It really is, because it's going to keep coming at you and digging at you until you get it, right? Until you get it. All right. So I will put that post up again this afternoon or this morning, and we can talk about that. Now I want to do something sort of magically fun. First of all, there's another fun sort of, this is the reason why the day might be lighter today, is that Venus is now conjunct the planet Uranus. Always brings us fun sort of ahas, epiphanies, excitement, maybe magical things that we didn't expect to have happen, right? And the way that we can work with this energy today is by letting go. I feel like I should break out into song from Frozen. You don't want to hear me sing, because let it go, right? If something isn't in alignment with your values, which is what Venus represents, then let it go. If there's a relationship in your life that is tottering on the edge and it isn't beneficial for you or the other person, let it go, right? This is the day to align with your values. It brings excitement and an air of newness with it, right? Potential for me living from my values is actually giving me chills, even thinking about being able to do that, right? To create freedom and change. That is what the coming together of Venus and Uranus also represents very powerfully for us. So I thought I would pull some cards this morning, a card. My intention was to pull a card. I actually just asked the universe, give me a message for everybody this morning through the cards. And 2 cards popped out. That's not the magic so much. The magic is the cards and how they are reflections of one another. The first card that came up was the card that says why. Ooh, there we go. Why, right? Number 31. Note the numbers, number 31. And the question is why. And I'll read you what the card means here in a moment. So we see what looks like an owl possibly passing on wisdom to a young fairy. And then we have the card. And by the way, both of these cards came out upright. God, I'm so lame when it comes to reflections here. This card is called Fork in the Road. And it looks like a llama with, I don't know, to me it looks like a llama with horns. That doesn't make sense, but whatever. It is the card, A Fork in the Road. But the magical part here is look at the number. It's the mirror image of this card over here. This card, right? This is 30. This is 31. And this is 13. I told you I'm lame when it comes to seeing myself in a reflection. So let's take a look at what the, oh Lord. So let's look at card 31. And again, this is the Wisdom of the Oracle deck by Colette Baron Reed. I love this deck. You know that. And I want all of you to go out and buy this deck if you can, because it's so wonderful to have. I swear it is magical. She imbued it with some kind of wonderment. And maybe it's her magic that got into this, because it's great. So 31 is the card Why. Oh, to my right. Oh, I get it now. Okay. So the card's essential meaning is motives driving intention, the power of knowing the why. There's great power in understanding your motives right now. The oracle asks you, of course I can't talk. Excuse me. There's great power in understanding your motives right now. The oracle asks you to be very clear about why you're asking this question, looking for this answer, behaving in this way, and most important, making this choice. Knowing your why is the key to fulfillment. When you are clear about it, your intention will then be a magnet for miracles. I love that, magnet for miracles. Motives define the nature of your experience when you think about something, feel it, and then act on it. This invisible why is the driving life force energy within the seed, which brings it to life and holds the potential for growth. So if we look at that as the prosperity message, then let's see what she says here. Knowing the motives behind your career and creative ventures is the ticket to your greatest success. It's time to ask yourself some probing questions. Are you driven by a desire to serve? Does your prosperity impact the greater good? When you envision your most prosperous life, are you guided by a sense of purpose or by a need to make money, acquire things, save for the future, or all of these? No motive is good or bad, but having agendas hidden from yourself will lead to disappointment and possibly failure. Be clear about why you want the things you do. If the motives are true, accept them. If they are not, change them so you can step into your extraordinary life. And I think the relationship message is also good for us to read today, because Venus also rules, besides prosperity and money, etc., she rules relationships. So let's look at that message as well. We don't always know why we engage in our relationships in the way we do, mostly because our feelings aren't always logical. They're never logical. Now is the time to recognize whether you are being triggered by someone else or if your behavior is motivated by unresolved issues in the past. When you ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? And why did I say that? And spend some time in introspection, the answers may be surprising. Listen to the messages from your intuition, from the knowing deep within you. What does it tell you about yourself and others? In the end, life is all about being loved. Miracles and a deep understanding of your needs and how to get them met are the buried treasures of the why. Uncover them by posing the most powerful question you can ask yourself and your partner today. Why? That's pretty interesting. So let's look at the mirror image card, which is the fork in the road. That really is a llama with some kind of headdress on it. Almost looks like, like on Christmas where we take sticks and we decorate them with different, baubles and so forth. That's kind of what it looks like, a headdress. And he's standing in front of a sign, right? A directional sign. And it looks like that's a monkey or something up on top. That's kind of crazy. But let's look and see what that means. And remember, this is card number 13. And card 13, then, to me, with this one being 31, it's almost that there's a mirror image for us, a mirror something for us to learn from this card. So let's see what it means. The essential meaning is time to make a decision, considering the consequences as you prepare to act. Prepare to act. Remember, Mercury is still retrograde. In Aries, taking action in a new direction right now may not be the best thing. So maybe holding back a little bit until your outer world really shows you the direction to go, or you're invited into, if you're a projector or a reflector, into something. Time to make a decision, considering the consequences as you prepare to act, owning up to your obligation to make a necessary choice. Every choice has a consequence. You've arrived at a fork in the road and are being asked to come to a decision. Will you further your dreams by choosing left or by choosing right? Will you take the road less traveled or the one well-worn by others who have come before you? This is your choice and yours alone to make. Circumstances and other people will not make it for you. Be present and do not avoid this junction, for it is an important crossroads. Take heart, as no matter which path you choose, you will have a rich and meaningful experience. The relationship message: you've reached a moment of truth in the evolution of your relationship. Which will you choose? To open up to the possibility of love, or to remain isolated? To go deeper and commit to mutual passion, or to walk away? This is a time to take responsibility for your truest desire and follow it. Be honest with yourself about what you're willing to do, invest and give, then choose. You cannot make a wrong choice. If you move forward with a relationship, know that it will be based in truth and authenticity. You will have made a conscious decision rather than simply hanging on because you don't want to be alone, or ending things because you're afraid of the intensity of genuine connection. All roads lead to the lessons you must learn in your relationships. Regardless of the decision you make, it will place you on the path to a truer experience of the heart. Prosperity message says, you've come as far as you can on this part of your journey, and now you're faced with a choice. Inherent in this choice is the need for change, for evolution, and for a bettering of your circumstances. Narrow it down to just a single question. Who do I need to become, and what do I need to believe in order to live prosperity? Answer honestly and from the heart. Then the decision about which way to go will be effortless. Know that abundance is all around you. Choose to see it, and it will be easier to settle on a direction. For the way will be made clear by your intuition, which knows how to steer you toward your well-being. Great cards, great information for the day. The Venus conjunct Uranus bleeds into tomorrow as well. So that's not just like this one moment in time. Making decisions like this, when we come to forks in the road, it is fraught with anxiety for people, right? Because we fear the unknown. We fear we we fear taking the step forward, but we are also afraid to stay where we are. So we get caught up in a conundrum and we end up in inaction. And then we believe that we haven't made a choice, but you did. You made a choice to stick it, to stay where you are. And sometimes that's the right decision, but you got to come to that consciously, not just let it be the default thing. I'm thinking of a song by the band from the 80s or late 70s, Rush, where he says, decision, choosing not to act is still a decision, right? Or, well, I'll find the lyrics to that song because it's pretty profound the way he says it, and I just botched it totally. But essentially, it's the same message. No matter what you're choosing, even if you choose not to act consciously, to just let it ride, if you do that consciously or unconsciously is the key, right? You consciously say, things aren't so bad. I like where I am. I'm sticking with this. Or am I just sticking with it, not even thinking about it because I'm too afraid to look at what things might be if I look down the road? So being conscious, that's the big key here. All right, that's all I have for you all today. I think it's probably the better day of the week for us energetically. Make it that way for yourself. Choose to make it that way for yourself. And in the meantime, I wish you all a happy day. I love you all. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock. And I'm hoping that on Friday, I will have a guest, Jana Groscott from the Manifesting Essentials, to talk with us about the best oils for the full moon coming up on Saturday. So in the meantime, take care. I love you all. Bye for now.